Welcome back, guys, for another episode of The Corner. Today we have my co host, who is usually on this podcast, Alexander, on the other end of the line. And I'm just hoping that whoever listens to this will find it semi interesting and keep checking in on our other episodes. Hello, Alexander. What's up?
Hello, thanks for having me on again. It's been quite a while since we did one of these the last time. I don't actually remember. Wasn't it like in September or something?
Yeah, something like that. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's definitely because so much shit has happened over the past half year, and like it's insane. It almost feels like much more than 3 months. But I don't know, like, do you want to, like, you had something interesting, like a quote that we talked about off the microphone here before we started this. What was that again?
Yes. It was like something I came over yesterday and discussing with a dear friend of mine. And he says to me, like in this conversation, that the richest man on the planet is the man with no bills.
Yeah. And that is so true, and I can relate to that very much because right now in my life, I don't have a lot of money. I'm actually pretty much close to the poorest I've ever been in my life. Like, yeah, sure, I have enough money to sustain myself with the proper food that I need. I buy a lot of organic stuff, but beyond that, I can't live like large in that way. But is the one with no bills? That means that being rich, the richness that you have in life doesn't have to be financial. It can be sociological. It can be political. You can have a lot of power without necessarily having a lot of money, and you can be intellectual. It can be intellectual freedom, intellectual richness, and well, I do feel like I have definitely, personally myself, I've grown a lot over the last 3 months doing this job. Ironically, through this internship that I've been doing, it's interesting how you can apply your academic knowledge to a 9-to-5 job. So that has been really, really developing for me personally, and that I think is actually a very fulfilling richness, even though it's not a financial one. So I'm like really, really happy with that. I gotta say. So that's really that's interesting to reflect on that. Yep. Actually, but as the storm is coming through Denmark on this 3rd of January 2024. Happy New Year to you, by the way.
Yeah, likewise. But back to like this thing with like the richest man is the one with no bills. For instance, you have like probably seen examples on this show like called The Luxury Trap on Danish TV. People who are rich, people who are doctors or engineers. Yeah, Luksusfælden.
Yeah, Luksusfælden is a Danish TV show. Yeah, but the Luxury Trap, it's like people that live in this very wealthy country of Denmark who for some reason have no. I mean, a lot of the premise is just about people losing touch with their financial control. This is actually the opposite of what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Because people are getting too, they're disappearing into this materialism, and they're actually thinking too much in terms of my life is just revolving around materials rather than fulfilling themselves in other ways, and then they fall into this trap of not seeing their finances clear enough. That's kind of a different problem than the one I was talking about before.
Your problem is the opposite, because you don't.
Exactly.
You don't have this kind of like money to spend, but you're not going out and accumulating credit card debt to buy stuff
No.
you can't afford anyways, and
No.
that's a good thing. But that is so you're on the other end of the scale. But there is people on this end of the scale that we're talking about that say are earning like $10,000 a month, and then they think, gee, now I got like 10K a month. 10K a month I can spend.
Yeah. And that's because they're not even they haven't uncovered what it truly is that makes them happy. Like it's an ironic place to be in life, because in a way it's like they don't think about money, so they're not like, in a way it's like funny that they're not money obsessed because they don't think about money, but they have the money, so they just go out and spend it willy-nilly, and that's because they try to cover up their the fact that they have so much money and that they don't know what to do with it. They're trying to cover that up with more materialism, with more with stuff, with physical stuff, because they can't reflect. They maybe like they don't have the intellectual capacities to find solitude in other areas of their lives, or they don't exercise enough. Maybe they don't get enough sleep. Like there's a lot of factors that can factor into to countering that materialistic drive.
Also, also the kind of fact that money can also make a man blind.
Definitely.
So I'm like thinking this goes for.
But that's actually what I was talking about. That is, you're hitting the main point there, right on the nail.
Yeah.
Because that is what it is. It's a blindness. It's a blindness by material. I mean, we could take this more down to earth, and like say, if you just walk into a store. Like I don't know. The best example would actually just be a jewelry store. Like you see around you all these shiny things, like golden rings and expensive thingamabobs. These you have mirrors that have beautiful patterns on them, and you. Or not mirrors. That was a bad example. You have things all around you, and you see them, but do you see yourself? No, because there's no mirror in there, right?
No.
You only see things, all these beautiful things around you, but you have nothing to show you who you are. You are just surrounded by all this crap, but you don't get to the core of who you are as a person, and that creates. Being in that situation, that creates you stand in that situation where everything has a price tag, right?
Yeah.
So the logical conclusion is this has a price, and I'm in this store, I must purchase this. Yeah. Right? Does this make sense?
You see, it makes sense, but if I were to find myself in a jewelry store looking at things, I would be wondering, why do I need all this stuff? I don't need this stuff. But
yeah, exactly. But that, like it could be a different thing. It could also be like a gaming store where there's a bunch of interesting games on the shelves.
I was actually just getting to it. Because when I worked at this electronic store warehouse for, in Scandinavia we have this chain called Power. I was doing this for like the summer job.
Yeah, we have the same thing here in Denmark too.
I was working at this warehouse for a summer job for like 3 summers in a row, living at my parents in my early 20s, and I was making bank, man. I was like making maybe $5,000 a month after taxes. And what did I do with all this shit? I just spent it.
Yeah,
I had no sense of like what it was worth, and I would just spend it on bullshit like watches, sunglasses, shit at the electronics store that I didn't really need, right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, and that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. That that like, but like without getting too personal here, like people try to cover up their underlying issues with things, because things are, but because that's the beautiful thing about. That's one of the beautiful things about capitalism and selling products is that it's a very concrete thing. Like in a world that's like filled with virtualness, with like abstract concepts that we as humans, because we are apes at the end of the day, we are just our brains are wired in this way where we can't understand all these abstract concepts that are so complicated. And talking about like emotions, the human emotions. What is the like, for instance, one of the biggest ones, the feeling of love, loving someone. That is much more complicated than going out and buying a new coffee maker.
Yes.
Like
that
you can't
also-
even compare the two. It's so much easier to understand.
But,
Yeah, I buy this coffee maker, makes great coffee. That's fine. I can relate to that. But loving someone, what the fuck is that?
I'm coming to that. That also gets clouded, not by money, but by social media, because if either of you or the spouse that you love is on social media, it is easy to start measuring your life towards other lives of what other people are posting on social media, which is typically fake, but you still buy it.
Yeah, that's true.
So in a way, I would say that, like, if we're talking about human relationships, this was way more authentic 50 to 100 years ago, where we didn't have
Definitely.
or we didn't have any of this social media crap or internet, and we were forced to physically go out and interact with people.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of social relationships, I agree. Of course, as I just watched in a YouTube video yesterday where there was this was something about a guy who's making dishes from historical dishes from the 19th century, and he was talking about like things previously, and a lot of theorists are supporting this, by the way. We like Hartmut Rosa, one of the big sociologists that I will use in my master's thesis next semester. He is also talking about that it's not that this acceleration, the social acceleration that we experience now, or acceleration in general, is causing society to be worse than it was back then. It's just that it happens. And it's not everything that is worse now. Like, for instance, the fact that we have, for instance, now during the snowstorm, we have a comfortable home where we can sit and talk, granted over the internet, granted over a microphone, over a large distance, so we're not face to face, but we're not struggling to survive. So that's one of the better things.
Yes, I'm imagining 100 years ago we would be sitting inside freezing our asses off with a wool cap and a fireplace.
Exactly.
In a drafty house.
Yeah. So that's of course a lot better, and a lot of things are better, but one of the things that are critical to understand about this theory of social acceleration that I will dive much more into next semester is that we, like, the human interactions are getting much more alienated, and alienation is another concept that he uses a lot, is like, or can be alienated. I mean, of course, there are situations where you still find resonance. That's also one of the concepts, where you still like feel you can express yourself like we do right now, or if you live in a dorm like I do, where people are also interacting much more closely with each other. But a lot of relationships are much more alienated today than they were 200 years ago.
Absolutely.
Because of this acceleration.
Absolutely.
And actually the concept of acceleration is interesting too, because it creates a kind of now I lost it.
Okay,
It'll come to me.
I'll continue on then.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, if we are struggling more today than we were 100 years ago. And where I'm getting at here is that 100 years ago everything would be more locally sourced, right? It wasn't like you could just hit a button on a keyboard and then order your product from China in 1900. But today it is all about maximizing profits, buy the products cheap from the other end of the world if it can pay off, right? And this is costing the society, like workplaces. It's costing stress. It's causing a lot of stress because that means that jobs are getting lost in the process, and you have to go out and find another job, right? Like say an example that you're working at a factory decides to close down because, hey, we can make this a lot cheaper in Asia than we can in Denmark. So we're shutting this down. You got to go and find another job. And this will just increase more and more in the future, I believe, as it will be quicker and more smoother to ship products from Asia to the West.
Yeah, thanks for that. Because now I remembered what it was that I was missing before.
Yeah.
And that is the concept of expectancy. Because as you have, like this theory says, Rosa's theory, when the world is accelerating more and more rapid acceleration increases, that also at the same length increases the expectancy. The expectancy, and this is not just in terms of social relations, this is also in terms of technological improvements, the expectancy of political decisions, the expectancy of cultural acceleration, of cultural of culture kind of culture is a different thing, but because it changes so rapidly already. But you could make the argument that culture changes more rapidly now than it has done 200 years ago. But the point here is the expectancy is increasing as acceleration is increasing too. For instance, a very good example that is often described is 200 years ago you wrote letters, right? You wrote you could maybe write 5 letters a week, and then they would be mailed by the US Post Service if we're in the US, and they would maybe arrive after 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
But now we have the opportunity to write an email, and not just 5 emails per week. You could easily write 30 emails in a week with no problem, because also you are physically typing faster on a keyboard than you are by hand.
An example of this. Like a while ago, I watched this show called 1883, right? And this family has a ranch in Montana, and one of their sons is over in Africa working or doing some hunting guiding or preservation, right?
Yeah.
But they need to bring him home because the ranch is under attack because somebody wants their land, right?
Yeah.
And then it is this entire process of sending this letter all the way from Montana, USA, to some place in Africa. So this guy first gets the letter I think it is something crazy. It takes 6 months from they wrote the letter writing that the ranch is under attack till he's reading it in Africa.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
and then it's the entire process of him getting the entire way from Africa to Bozeman, Montana.
But that's also a long way. And
Yeah.
like, when was this? What year was it?
1883.
1883.
Yeah.
So that's like
No, wait. It is not 1883. It is 1923. Yes.
Oh, that's even more according to my point, because this is right actually at the peak of industrialization, and this is actually interesting because industrialization is where globalization really kicks in. So this is already at the beginning of the world being more global. Well, not in the beginning. I mean, technically, it's already starting with the British Empire expanding around. At the beginning of the 19th century, it already happened sort of before. You could argue that it goes back to 1650 when the British settlers came to America, but the peak of industrialization and globalization and the British Empire is building up towards the end of the 19th century. And this is where, and this makes sense that we're talking about this letter exchange from Bozeman, Montana to Africa, because of course we have the slave trade that's peaking at this point. Another horrifying thing
the slave trade would have ended like 30-40 years before. But yeah.
Well, I mean, you could argue that it's still going on today in the form of segregation, because the slave trade turned in. I mean, it didn't end with Abraham Lincoln just saying, no, we have disbanded the slave trade. You're not allowed to have slaves anymore after 1856.
No.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't really work like that. No. Like, because you still have a lot of southern angry farmers who are like, hell, I have my big farm here with thousands of black people that work for me.
But
am I supposed to give that? This is the land of the free. I can do with them whatever I want.
Of course. Crazy times.
And so during the beginning part of the 20th century, we still have the segregation with Martin Luther King and all of that.
Yeah.
And in part, I mean, we have both watched The Wire, so we know it's still going on today.
Yeah.
Because of this crap 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But no, like, what I really wanted to talk about was this like letter exchange that you mentioned, that is at the height or the beginning of globalization, that shows this rapid increase in. There's actually a need for sending a letter from Bozeman, Montana to Africa. Was there that need like 400 years before, like during the Middle Ages, for instance, in Europe? Nah, was there a need to send a letter to Africa?
I don't think that in the Middle Ages you could just hop on a ship and say that, like, I'm taking a job in Africa.
No, and that proves that already in the 19th century, 1800 and what was it?
1923.
1923. That proves that already in 1923, the world was already then much more globalized and much more. The speed was already much faster than 200 years before that. In 17 at the French Revolution, for instance, 1771 or something, I think. 72 maybe. Not important. But like, it just proves that the speed that proves Hartmut Rosa's point that the speed of acceleration in modern society has rapidly increased over the last 300 years.
And traveling, of course. Like I have to mention this too, because then he gets the letter 6 months after, right? Immediately writes a letter back that okay, I am on my way back. I'm coming back to Montana to help fight, right? Protect our ranch. And then it's the entire process of like him getting from A to B, right? Which also was
Yeah.
no joke, because first he has to go to the harbor in the town, right? Talk to the
Yeah.
sailors in the pub and listen and say like, listen, I gotta get from here to there. How do I do that? Well, you gotta go to this other harbor town somewhere, right? And like I think like the guy says that you have to go to the Suez Canal, right, between Egypt and Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah,
You have
the Suez
You
Canal,
have
which
to-
is one of the biggest. Like I think the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal are one of the biggest financial centers of
shipping.
of shipping. Yeah, that they make the Panama. I think the Suez Canal is like probably positioned two. The Panama Canal is like, I could Google it right now, but it's in the triple digits, I think, with regards to if you couldn't ship through there, it would be a loss for them of like triple digits in $1 million. It's insane.
Right. So he's told like first you need to get up there on a ship, right? And then you gotta find a British merchant ship to take you to England, because there is no direct shipping routes from Suez to America at this point.
Oh, right. I was mistaken. It's not. It is triple digits in millions, but it's nearly $3 billion was generated in the Panama Canal in 2021.
Wow.
So that's a lot of revenue that is that has to be paid from shipping companies to the port of the Panama Canal.
Yeah. So then he has to like so we're talking about what is it, like 1, 2? We're talking about 3 separate sailing trips in order to just get to the US, right? And remember that you can't sail to Montana since it is inland, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like really like the new season hasn't come out yet, but I'm really excited to see this trip, because we start off with him like finding somebody that is going there, right? And this captain is played by Peter Stormare, if you remember who that is, right?
Yeah, from Prison Break as well.
Prison Break.
Yeah.
And the guy is clearly dying and has cancer, and sitting at the bar table like coughing up fistfuls of blood in his handkerchief while drinking. And saying like, I'll get you up to Suez, right? As long as you can work on the ship. So he gets on the ship, and it is crazy because at this time in the 1920s, then vessels are just being abandoned when they are of no use or the engines doesn't work, right? So you have like a whole bunch of like ghost ships floating around the Red Sea, I guess it is, right?
Yeah.
Which they have to like stay clear of and like not collide into. And then of course Peter Stormare dies from this cancer on the boat, and he's left to sail a ship having no clue how to sail a ship.
Oh man, I gotta watch it. What's that called again?
1923.
The movie or
No, the TV show.
Oh, TV show, 1923, right?
So
I gotta check that out.
So like it is just completely nuts, and eventually he's like able to hail some British Navy ship on the radio, because they did have radios in 1923, amazingly.
I mean, like, actually, it's about this time that Germany, because I wrote my bachelor's thesis about this very thing, actually, radio in the Weimar Republic, and one of the first radio shows that came out during this time was in 1923 by a famous radio show host. At the time, he was famous. He's, of course, been over, like, because of this rapidly increasing technology and everything, he's been overgone now, or surpassed, right? So, but at the time, it was this famous radio show host called what was his name? Hans Flesch, in Germany, who was like really, really designing his own radio program in 1923.
Yeah.
But I think the technology predates that a little bit, but it can't be much. It probably goes back to the First World War or something.
Yeah. Let's get on with this journey. So they're on this. They're on this British merchant ship, now British Navy ship that they're picked up from. It has to be like merchant ship, I think. And he has his girl with, right?
Yeah.
And then on this same ship is the family and the former fiance that he stole this girl from.
Wait, who stole it?
the girl was engaged, going to be married, right? And then fell in love with this fighter guy, right? So there's a guy here that is like left heartbroken and being like, how could you do this to me and stuff, right? And remember, we are in 1923, right? Now they're past the Suez Canal. They're like sailing in the Mediterranean towards Gibraltar, I think, to like refuel or something. And this guy is just eyeballing him the entire way, and suddenly says, and remember, we're like on the sea, right? It says, "You, sir, I challenge you, to a duel, fight to the death." Like, and I was like amazed of these rules that they're like putting in here, because as I could understand it, like the rules of dueling, they were kind of like fading in the 1920s, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And it was an extremely gray area that there was dueling on ships.
I mean, the civilization was increasing, and you can imagine that it's already happening during the 19th century with the British Empire, who's like, where the aristocracy is already, the upper classes is already setting themselves apart and like already influencing the norms. Actually, that's something that we could discuss in another podcast, is how norms today have actually replaced religion as a source of ethics, as like the moralizing powers of society today. But we can do that another, because that's gonna take too long time for this. Like the dueling of that time was already being replaced, faded out. Yeah. So this bothered me a little bit of the scene, because you have the captain, you have the crew, you have everybody like standing here like looking at it, right, but not doing shit. And like tossing like the guy tossing a sword or whatever to this guy, and so it's like, okay, come on, okay, come on, right? And he's being a gentleman about it. He doesn't want to kill this guy, because remember, he is a hardened veteran from fighting the Germans. And has a lot of skills with guns and sword fighting and knives, all this stuff. So he really doesn't want to kill him, and are just disarming him and knocking him down, right? Because he doesn't want to do anything. But then this guy decides to pull a gun, as like the typical bad guy move, right? To fire at him, and he just acts instinctively, picks him up and throws him overboard into the Mediterranean or whatever ocean we are at, and is never to be seen again, right? And first then the captain steps up and says, "Arrest that man for murder and put him in the brig." And put him in the what?
Put him in the brig, the ship's arrest.
Oh, I never heard that before.
And put him
in the brig.
Yeah, the brig.
That's interesting.
Put him in the brig. And I'm thinking like, what? This was clearly self-defense, right?
Yeah.
But it turns out that like the captain is friends with this guy's father, right? And they are just claiming that they didn't see the gun, and then saying that like it was murder. So this like gets solved under the way, but wow, holy cow, man! This was the 1920s, end of the cowboy era.
Yeah, I didn't know it also featured Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren.
Yeah,
and
he plays the guy's father.
yeah,
He's
and
the-
Timothy Dalton too.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so I guess we can recommend that for sure for historical for lovers of history, especially if you like Red Dead Redemption. This is probably going to be good. Is it on Netflix or something?
Then,
HBO?
It's on Showtime, I think,
Showtime. All
for the
right.
time being.
Right.
But yeah,
Well, I
man,
might like it. It seems fairly new, so I will probably get into it if I can remember it when a little bit more seasons have been aired. Also because I don't have Showtime right now. So
That great show, great acting, great history.
there's also it's actually interesting. There's also a miniseries. It's called 1883.
Yeah,
with,
that's the prequel. You know, like this is like it's about like several generations, right? 1883 is about them being on this, or like their father's, like grandfather, I guess then, right, or granduncle, being on this caravan, or what do you call it? You know, like when you have like a whole set of carts and wagons, right?
It is. It's called. It's a caravan.
It's like
caravan.
on the way, like westbound, but they are driven. But they're driven towards Montana because bandits, Indians, assholes, right?
Yeah.
And the fact.
And
the fact that like in 1883, Wyoming wasn't technically a state, so there was no laws, so it was a free for all scumbags in 1883.
What have you read? Blood Meridian.
I read some of it.
Yeah, because it was one of my other friends, Mathis, who just finished reading that book, and he was like absolutely amazed by it because it was like one of the most artistically written, but also kind of like violent books that he had read in a long time, and I'm happy that I lent it to him because it's I gotta be honest, I only got through like 25% of it because I read very slowly, and then like I had to read other stuff at university, so I didn't. But I really need to pick it up again at some point. Probably after I'm done with my master's.
Absolutely.
Because this is like it's just if you can get over how hard it is to read, because like Corman McCarthy is really bad at like using dots and commas and also quotation marks. He like whenever he writes dialogue, he doesn't indicate it. He doesn't indicate who says what. He just writes the dialogue out in one without quotation marks, without I even think without hyphens.
Right.
It's so difficult to read.
Then I can understand. Like some people having difficulties reading it.
But once you can get over that, I think it's actually
a good book.
It's all right. Yeah, it's actually fairly good because it just shows that raw nature of humanity. And actually, that's leads to another point that I have written down here in my notes, which is yes, that we have, as we have discussed, this acceleration that just keeps going, and this efficient. Everything needs to be more. Everything needs to be efficient, over efficient today. Everything needs to be hyper organized, and everything is going faster and faster and faster, much more rapidly. But what about the human? Like, what about the human evolution from monkey to ape? Is that going as fast? Like, if you think about our human brain, is that even remotely adapted to the virtual world that we have? And this ties together with the materialism that we talked about in the beginning, where we have the human that is always buying these, especially in capitalism, that is always buying products to fulfill their needs. but we don't have the intellectual capacity to wrap our brains around abstract concepts and like, for instance, AI. Just that's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Do we even have people who understand the? I mean, we have AI systems that are running so deep at so deep levels where we have one layer of AI that is communicating with a deeper layer of AI on the 7 layers of AI that no human can even comprehend. Wait, I'm making the argument that here technology is moving so fast, and soon we will have AI that is moving so fast that our human evolution can't follow that.
No,
we can't follow along with the technology.
That I believe that what the future holds is 50% global unemployment rate due to AI and machines getting optimized and being just run on auto.
But the thing is also, like, the solution, how to counter that, according to this theory as well, is like, I'm just gonna jump out into it. I'm just gonna give you the solution right here, because just because I say it right here doesn't make everybody know this. But I believe that the solution is truly to say, just because we have AI doesn't mean we have to use it, because what, like, we have to exist too, right? We have to, like, just because you have, like, ChatGPT that can write anything in the world. What good is that if there's humans that don't understand that?
The problem that is present there is that humans are by default lazy.
Yeah, no, actually, that's one of the good things about humanity. One thing I frequently discussed with my boss, that the best things about humans are actually that we are lazy, and that we are, what was the other thing? Dawnscape and, what was it? There was 2 things.
Greedy?
Lazy and, fuck, man. I can't remember.
Yeah, but
this is important.
Where I was going with this is because we are lazy, then we are always looking for ways to make our jobs easier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And not necessarily us as just regular mortal human beings, but big corporations will also use AI, for instance, to optimize their profits and get rid of unnecessary jobs occupied by humans. So it is one less paycheck to pay out a month.
Now I remembered that the 2 best things, the 2 best abilities of humans are laziness and boredom. Because when we are lazy and when we are bored, that's when we are the most creative. Because we are lazy, we want to invent something that helps us get out of being in that lazy state, or that helps us be lazy. Ironically, we have created so many things that help us be lazy that now we actually need to be proactive. But that's a separate issue.
Yes. Yes.
But the good thing about humans is we are good at problem solving to make our lives easier. And the other thing is, whenever we are bored, that's when we are really creative. That's when we really, because when you are bored, you seek to get out of that state of being bored. And how can you do that? The only way you can do that is by being creative and solving the problem of being bored.
Yeah. Sometimes
yeah.
easier said than done, but yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like, I'm just stating the facts of being a human here, but of course that is one of the biggest problems we have as humans, especially with all this technology, because we have a lot of technology now that says, hey, I can do this for you because I'm a robot, so you don't have to do anything. But what does the human the human, like, okay, one other good thing about humans is humans are problem solvers, and that is one of the most default settings of humans.
Yeah.
Just going to make that claim here. Humans are on this earth to solve problems.
Yeah.
But what does the human do if there's no problems to solve?
That's the question.
That is a catastrophe, and that is what we see happening, like with 50% unemployment, because essentially having a job is a problem that you can solve. And like, just let's slow this way down, okay? So, do you agree with the statement that humans exist? Now we are actually now we are in existential philosophy. Do you agree with humans are on this earth to solve problems as a fundamental statement? Do you agree with that?
As a fundamental statement, yeah. I do agree with it.
That humans are here to solve problems. Yeah. On the same note, would you agree then that having a job is a weekly problem that you have to solve as a human?
No, I would rather say that a job is a necessity. It isn't a problem that you need to solve.
That's interesting.
But I would call it a necessity because
a necessity. Yeah. But a necessity based on what? Why is it a necessity?
It is a necessity to survive, but not only to survive, but also
and to you, survival is not a problem that needs to be solved.
It is. So
if you have to do this, isn't it a problem then?
You have to do it, but it isn't. Oh man.
I think the problem is, we're philosophizing. Let's slow it down. Man. I think the problem is that we have different definitions of the word problem.
I think so too. But yes, survival is a problem, right?
Is like the definition of a problem is that it is a matter or situation regarded as unwelcome or harmful and needing to be dealt with and overcome.
Yes, I was getting.
Isn't that survival at the core of it?
I was just getting at it. I was going to say that the job is the solution to the problem of survival, but not only survival, also to prevail the comfortable lifestyle you currently have. Does it make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm having a perfect example of this. I was reading from a Norwegian researcher and writer who was like looking at faces and interviewing people in Norway, in Oslo, right? There wasn't a smile on any motherfucker's face. Only like complaints about like small bullshit here and there, right? And then he had like been to Africa where it was the happiest people he had ever seen, because these small things like having half a cold beer, because that was what this person could afford that day, and a chicken leg was what made this person's day happy as could be, right? So what I'm getting at is that it is a necessity to prevail the lifestyle and the life that you have, right? If you were in some other place like Africa, your life comfort would probably drastically decrease, right?
That's true.
You would learn to adapt, you would learn to live with it, and then you would cherish these small things, like this man with half a cold beer and a chicken leg.
But I still kind of have to draw an equal sign between the words problem and necessity there, because to me it's kind of like the same thing. I just think I'm thinking much more philosophical in a way.
I agree.
But it's kind of like a necessity it's a necessity, but at the same time, if we go back to that fundamental statement that humans are problem solvers, which I mean you can see that everywhere. They're like I mean, it doesn't even have to be big problems like solving the nation's economy, like a politician does, or solving or programming something in code. It can be a simple problem like how do I make coffee in the morning? That's a simple problem. You get up. You put the coffee filter in the coffee machine, you pour some beans in, and then you have solved that problem. It's just a different way to think about the word problem, but I think it's
I think like the difference between you and me here is that you were classifying it as problems, right? And I think I would rather classify it as solutions to a need. That we are on this problem to solve the needs of other people and ourselves.
But whatever you call it, you can still not deny that everyone, including people who are very lazy, like the Danish stereotypical dude, that lazy Robert or Down Rupert.
Yeah.
That you can. I mean, the dude has studied Chinese and I think even Russian at university, and just wasn't able to find a job where he could use that. Surprisingly, or maybe he was just lazy. But even he was able to do something. I don't know. You don't call it problem solving, but you call it. He had a need to do something with his life. You can't deny that everyone, no matter if you're an alcoholic or if you are, or if you've grown up in a bad society, actually, especially if you've grown up in a bad society, then you have a need to do something. In that case, you have a need to get out of that. And if you've grown up in a good society, you have a need to use that to do something else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a primal need that we all have. But to get back to my main point was with this acceleration is that the human evolution that this is who we are as apes. This is who we have always been, and in our times, technology is running much faster than the human evolution. So my statement here for now is human evolution is slower, moving at a slower pace than the cultural development of society. Think about that.
Plus we are plus the fact that overpopulation is also present, right?
Yeah, but that's not so bad, because projections are stating for 2020. No, wait, when was it? I think no, it's when the world population reaches 11 billion. I think it's the UN or something that made prognosis. No, what do you call it?
Yeah, prognosis.
Prognosis that when the human population reaches 11 billion, the population will flatten out and will actually remain itself. And the reason for that is because China is getting more and more wealthy. And that can sound weird, but it all comes down to wealthy society. And there's a lot of research that goes into this, so I don't need to explain a lot of this. But a lot of research has confirmed that the wealthier a country is, the less the birth rate, the more the birth rate declines.
Why?
And that's it's because when people as people become more intellectual, as they become more and more educated, the more time passes before. I mean, you can see it with women in our Western societies. The birth rate for women, or the birth age for women, is increasing because as they get more educated, they get less and less focused on that primal need to have kids, and then the birth rate falls. And this is going to happen in China up until we reach 11 billion people because China is becoming more and more wealthy. They're becoming more and more industrialized, more educated, and then their birth rate will fall eventually.
Right.
When this happens to India is a good question, but I don't know. But this is like very interesting research too, because this goes very much counterintuitive what I have been thinking for a lot of years. But again, this is one of the things that I've discovered while I was at university, that no, the population will eventually flatten, the global population.
Yeah.
And I won't say it will fall, depending on how many wars there will occur. That's actually also another thing that's good about our society today. There have never been less wars in history than there are today. And I guess that's even including with the Ukraine and Israel. But there have never been less wars today than there are. So the only thing that will actually destroy society and make it possible for the global population to increase again is if war breaks out, destroying the countries, destroying education, and thereby increasing the primal need to have kids.
Yeah,
That's actually...
it poses the interesting question if like a war is the intelligent way forward or if it is not the intelligent way forward.
Well, I would still say that, considering that we sit inside comfortable homes here at the peak of society, being intelligent and being able to just talk for a living, or like do jobs that are intellectual. Based on that, I would say I would rather prefer no wars.
Yeah.
But if the goal is to just get as many people out of it as possible, yeah, then maybe war is the solution. Because you can actually also see that, I don't know who that was who said that. I think it was in a podcast I heard that there was, it was that German podcast I listened to, where one of the journalists had been in Ukraine and had talked to a Ukrainian man with his wife about them wanting to start having kids now. And the journalist was like, "What? Having kids while there's a war going on? Are you crazy right now?" And then the dude and his wife were just like, "Yeah, well, especially right now, because who else is going to rebuild our country?"
So this was in Ukraine?
Yeah. So they were seriously thinking about having kids while there's a war going on.
Yeah.
And that's like that was a little bit illogical to me, but it's like, in a way, it's like whenever you...
Well, I kind of see the...
Whenever you have the it must be something primal. Like whenever you are struggling to survive, then you fall back on that one thing you can control, the primal need, which is having kids.
Yeah.
Which is sex at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And actually, if you think about it, a war and sex are not that differently, that far apart. I mean, in a way, now I'm getting philosophical again, sex is an aggressive act, and so is war.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. The man... Okay, now it's getting macho chauvinistic.
This podcast now.
No, but it's like... Oh, right. Are we already approaching an hour?
So I do want to thank anybody that has tuned in.
No, but wait. I can't end it here on this this macho chauvinistic note. Of course, no. We can't do that. No, because of course they can also. I mean, there's dominatrixes and shit that are aggressive towards men too, so just to equalize just female equality. I'm all for that, of course.
When someone just let their train of thoughts just flow freely.
Yeah. But it is not even. I mean, it is relevant because because it is a part of being a human, and of course it's a big taboo because of all these norms that have replaced religion, as I was talking about before. But it is a part of being a human, and so it is in philosophy. It is natural to talk about sex.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, it doesn't have to be more than that, obviously, and then it can be misinterpreted because we live in a hypertension, in a society with hypertension, and people get hurt by the littlest things, and most importantly, and you agree with this, people take things largely out of context. Like, I mean, think about the social media and journalism in general. Like, journalists will take a statement that was made 20 years ago. Like, I just listened to a podcast by some of these Danish journalists that I've frequently listened to, where they had like where they had the example, somebody had taken a statement from a newspaper 50 years ago and tried to blown it up at Supreme Court to make a case out of it.
Well, I just think
just based on that statement alone.
I just think that some people are just looking for ways to get provoked. They're looking to find ways to get provoked.
But why is that?
I
have the answer, but I want to hear your answer.
Why some people are just looking to get provoked?
Yeah. I mean, Joe Rogan is talking about this all the time on his podcast.
Well, I think like there is several factors in the picture. One is the way from like getting provoked and showing that you are provoked is creating followers.
It's a way to get ahead,
yes,
kind of.
You can like see this in the way that Republicans are arguing on TV in America. They're going absolutely nuts over the littlest things, right? And this is instigating hate and followers amongst the Republican the Republican voters in the U.S., right? Looking for ways to get provoked so they can like sit there and slam their fist in the desk and say like, hate,
But isn't there something primal to that as well? Something like we live in a society that is so at least so well behaved, maybe too well behaved, that we can't live out that catharsis and that.
I think it is the opposite. I think that some people are just embracing this way because of two factors. You have like one, the ones that want to get followers and use this for their own popularity, right? And then you have the people who are following this out of hopelessness. Yeah. Because it's the only thing. Because it's the only thing that makes sense.
A hopelessness that comes from what?
From everything collapsing around them, from the infrastructure collapsing around them, from the government collapsing around them. Infrastructure
collapsing. That doesn't. I mean, yes, now we have snow in Denmark, but other than that, we have perfectly good roads.
Not in the quite literal sense, but let's break it down a little bit more, okay? So let's say that the hopeless person is, or not a hopeless person, but a person is following this hate, right? Is maybe like feeling that nothing is working out in his life or her life, right? That the job is not working out, or the money isn't enough, or inflation is happening, and all these things are like just blowing up, right? And then everything feels hopeless because said person isn't able to feel that him or her is taking a step forward, and they're rather taking a step backwards. And when somebody is like taking too many steps backwards, that starts to feel hopeless, and you are starting to listen to this, right? Because it's the only thing that makes sense, and it is probably also somebody that is saying that they're going to make everything better if they listen to this person.
That's true.
That's what I mean about it.
Yeah. But that's a lot of different discourses and social milieus, social environments that you are describing there.
Yeah.
And I have the answer, but we are already on 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Well, you can tail it 5 minutes more. So what was your answer to it?
I mean, of course, it seems arrogant to posit that I have the answer to the entire society. Yes, it is now, but maybe partially. At least a start, a place to start is understanding this theory. For me, it has been a huge help to understand the theory of Hartmut Rosa, the theory of that this social acceleration is happening, and that creates what he calls alienation, or Entfremdung to German. This alienation that is a part of, because everything has to go faster and faster and faster, then there's less and less, and in terms of faster and faster and faster, that also includes social networks, like people that you communicate with. Before, you had 200 years ago, you had a small village where you knew the butcher, you knew the blacksmith, you knew pretty much 20 people, and that was it. And there's actually also a theory that humans, as primitive monkeys as we are, we can only actually have social relations, social relationships with 150, not romantic relationships, just like relations to 150 people. More than that, and the human will be cognitively overloaded. And if you think about Facebook friends, where people have some people have thousands of friends, they can't possibly have enough social relations with those. But because of you had this village in 1725 or something. You knew 20 people, 30 people, your family, a few friends, and that was it. Now the expectation is that you need to know hundreds of friends. You need to be a public face. If you're a politician, that's even worse. You need to know millions of people because they follow you, and you need to be able to give them the hand, and you need to smile at them, and you need to be showing a happy self.
Screw that.
But can you do that? Can you do that as a primitive monkey who can't fathom more than 150?
I'm saying screw all that, man. If I had the means.
But the point is that this is the stress. I know. This is stress on the human, and that is what is creating this tension with people. And I mean, you see, you have all these people. You have these people where they are expected to socialize with thousands of people, but what are they given? They are given a 21-inch computer screen that they look into, and are expected to socialize with people that are also sitting with screens through a monitor, not a face-to-face conversation that we are used to, but just these fucking screens.
I would.
Isn't that toxic?
I know. I have something I want to say here. Night to the 1st of January in North Norway, in a small town of, I want to say 2,000 people. Nothing around this, but a tundra and snow and mountains and forests, right? Then this teenage kid decides to stab and kill his mother and his stepfather, attempting
Wow.
to kill his little sister, and then offing
That's
himself.
Fucked. Yeah.
And then the second little sister was hiding and called the police.
And where was this?
North Norway.
Right.
And
Wow.
like, why? Was it because of the isolation? Was it because what he has been fueling his mind with from internet? It poses an interesting question.
Definitely.
Because I would like have like said like maybe the answer is to like live in a live in a cabin somewhere and just live on elk meat and fish, right? But maybe not, right? Because it's two sides to the same rock, right?
And of course, we can't possibly know whether these sociopaths and psychopaths existed 500 years ago. Of course they did.
No record.
But there will be no record. That's the first thing, and the second thing is also the amount of those people were probably significantly less, even though we will never know. But we know we can count the amount of cases of depression, anxiety, suicides that there are today, and we can conclude that we have the problem today. That's what we can do.
Statistically, there is one murdering psychopath amongst every millionth people.
Yeah.
So in Denmark today, there should statistically be 5.5 murdering psychopaths.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about it, if that's the number back in 1200, the population of Denmark wasn't even a million. So so if we have the same ratio, 1 in 1 million, then there would only have been half a murdering psychopath back in 1200.
Yeah.
So you could make that hypothesis based on the number we have today, even though it would be hard to go back and measure. Like it would be hard to go back and find sources that actually describe this.
I'm just thinking that in like 1700, 1800, it would be more difficult for you to be radicalized and impacted, right?
Definitely.
When it is like you're saying that you would know 20 people and that's it.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck are going to radicalize you and say like, hey, like all these people are scum and they are the reason why you're working here.
Yeah. That's true. That is actually very good on the point of another topic that we're not going to discuss, but that's something that my favorite philosopher, David Richard Brecht from Germany, is frequently talking about. That if you have a lot of freaks basically on the internet that are constantly reaffirming you that no, you're not such a freak after all, just do this, then you end up writing what do you call a manifest at the end of it. Like fuck, man. And it's like, I mean, it truly can get out of balance real quickly.
I mean, like you're sitting behind the computer. This person will be sitting behind the computer screen, feeling like a damn god, and actually fucking believing that like I need to go out and do this.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
that is the true dark side of the internet, man.
When it's taken to the extremes, I mean, there's certainly good things about the internet. I mean, like we would never have met if it wasn't for Left 4 Dead, for instance. So there certainly is advantages to it, but I feel like it is also like if it becomes too if it becomes too radicalized, if you only hang out in certain forums where there's a lot of freaks just like you, that doesn't posit any good things.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right. Was that it?
I think so. Or for now,
For now.
anyway.
For now, we will return definitely.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody that is listening to this, and don't forget to share it with your friends if you find it interesting. And yeah, thank you, and Happy New Year.